Alrighty, it looks like we are officially live here. I'd like to welcome everybody to Homestead Studios, back to our channel. I've got Mark with us today. We're going to be doing another live video. This week, we're going to be focusing on, I should say this month actually, being that we only do these every 4 weeks or so. We're going to be focusing on the top 5 places to splurge during your kitchen renovation. So let me bring on Mark and we'll get started. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Hey, Jeff, great to be here.
God, I'm glad to have you. I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion here on,
For sure.
on where to spend our money and where you think some of the best places to spend money are during renovations. I know I've gone through about a half dozen of my own kitchen renovations or my own project renovations in the last 24 to 36 months or so.
Wow.
And I have a few ideas on where I like to spend money and where I typically like to pare back a little bit, but I'm interested to just take and see your thoughts on the process and where, another kitchen designer who has probably gone through, I'm sure, some of his own, where you think some of the places are. So I think what we're going to do here is we'll go kind of from 5 to 1. Maybe, I don't know if yours are in order of importance necessarily. I've sort of ranked mine in there, but different times or different houses or different projects call for different portions to be emphasized, if you will, or different areas to be emphasized. So I'll start with my, number 5, and then we'll kind of alternate our way down to number 1.
Awesome.
Sound good?
I'm in. I'm ready.
Alrighty. So I'll kick us off here. So at number 5, I have customized accents. And this is kind of a broad topic, obviously, because I mean, that can entail a whole number of things. But on there, I have stuff like a unique range hood or a unique built-in cabinet of sort. I even have open shelving in here, for as controversial of a topic as that might be. But the reason I say that is it's really easy to create a kitchen with cabinetry wall to wall and forget about those odd touches that really make the space our own. And those odd touches are often what add a bit of a flair to a kitchen and a bit of a personality. And I've found in my own renovations, when I start including a few of those in, people get drawn to those. And you're not necessarily everybody that's going to get drawn to it, but you're after those few people that are drawn to it. Mm-hmm. And I found that it's made a big difference in how people perceive a space once it's been finished.
So are you talking, do you mean color as well?
I mean, color could work. So, I mean, you could take, say, if you've got a white kitchen and you want to use a bold accent color in one area, or, two-tone cabinetry can often work for that. It could even be an island. Like, it could be something as big as that is not just a set of cabinets sitting on the floor, but maybe a little more built in. It's got some unique elements to it, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of on my list. And so in customized accents, are you talking like a particular one, or would this just be kind of a broad scale?
I would say, and under this, it's sort of a broad scale. So yeah, especially when it comes to like range hoods, for example, because like I have sort of a view on range hoods that they should either be a focal point and like a feature, and they should really be there and really emphasize, or they should sort of mute their way into the background and just blend as part of the cabinetry.
Okay.
And that really comes down to what you are trying to make the focal point of your kitchen. And for many people, it is a range hood. Like, you've spent a bunch of money on ventilation in some form or another, or you've bought an insert and you want to create a unique piece of carpentry to surround it. So yeah, I would say more in generalized terms, unique or customized accents.
Cool. I like it. Mine's a little different. My number 1 is slightly different, though. That customized accents is sort of on my list. But my number 1, if I'm going to splurge on anything, or if anyone's going to spend money, I think they should spend money on installation.
So is that your number 1? Like
my number 1.
Okay, so I went number 5 first. So I'll get to my number. Okay. Oh. I'm going backwards. I'm going least important to most important.
Okay, well, I'll go most important. I'll work my way down.
Okay.
So my most important, because my least important is basically very not important at all, but just somewhere where you could spend money if you're just looking to spend it somewhere. But number 1 for me would be installation. So that's where I feel the best money can be spent, especially if you are a DIY. And you're not a kitchen installer. Jeff, you can install kitchens. I've seen some of your videos. I've seen, like you've done a few kitchens, and installing a kitchen is an art. It's not just slapping stuff together.
Yeah.
And one of my good friends is an installer. He's done a lot of my installs. And that would be my number one thing if you're doing it yourself. Now, most people when they're purchasing a kitchen from me back when I was in the business of selling kitchen cabinets, or yourself, they're buying that installed. But a lot of people want to do their own jobs, and many people are capable of it, but I don't recommend, sorry, you installing your own kitchen if you've never done it before. Now, maybe you say, well, I'm really handy, and that's fine. Maybe you really are, but most people, when it comes to installing a kitchen, it's a different can of beans. So
I would 100% agree.
spend the money on somebody who's really qualified, that you've seen their work, that you trust, that can do a really great job, because you're spending probably $5, $6, $7, $8, $10, $15,000 on cabinetry. You want them to look amazing. So
Yeah, I often have that discussion with clients that are planning the DIY route, and I'll ask them, how comfortable are you with, like, some prime examples are, if you're using IKEA kitchens, for example, or using any sort of RTA style kitchen and you need to include filler panels or end gables, one of the most difficult things is scribing those panels to walls. So most of us are not putting these kitchens in brand new renovations that are typically plumb level square at the corners.
Right.
We're renovating these into houses that have been where they are for maybe 50, 60, 70 years in some cases. Or, my house was 100 years. It's been here.
Yeah.
Nothing's square. Nothing is even. Walls have slight bows or curves because they are all plaster walls. Nothing's perfectly straight.
Yeah.
Scribing those in can be making a kitchen, can basically take a kitchen from looking like it was DIY'd and just stuck in place to looking professionally done.
Yeah.
So that's a very good number one.
I'm not downplaying doing it yourself and DIY. Like I totally respect that. I do a lot of my own stuff. But when it came to my own kitchens, even though I've been around this for a long, long time, I'm not a kitchen installer. And there's just things that those guys and girls know that, just from experience, it's worth every penny.
Yeah, I would agree. So I'm interested. That's also on my list.
Okay, good. I would hope so.
Yeah, it is also on my list. So, okay, I will keep going here at my number 4. Now, so I have number 4, like my middle range of my list is not really ordered. It can be done, and I think they're all relatively important. So up next, I have cabinet organization, cabinet hardware, and basically any of the moving components of your kitchen.
Okay, good.
So these are all typically items you will not see. So if someone walks into your kitchen, they're not going to see your internal organization. They're not going to see what type of hinges you have on your cabinets. And they're probably really not going to pay attention to the hardware, the pulls or the knobs on your doors.
Right.
And these are often overlooked, I find, when people are renovating. They're looking for either hidden this or hidden that, or more on the design side of things, as opposed to viewing some of this stuff from a functionality point.
Right.
And these little details tend to become a lot more noticeable after the kitchen renovation is finished. And you might not even notice them in the first few days, but it'll be something that if you don't ever notice them as a problem, that's sort of a good thing. That's what you're after. You don't want to always be thinking about, I this cabinet, I've got to grab it in a certain way so that I can open it fully, or I've got to, pull my organizers to the side so I can get to the side to stuff stored next to them. Or, the common one I hear is people will put those really thin profile pulls that are screwed in from the back. And every time they go to grab them with wet hands or something, their fingers are slipping and they just hate them down the line. That stuff I think people should focus on a little bit more and invest the money if it needs to, because cabinet hardware is not cheap.
No, it certainly
especially pulls. Like if you want, big style or large pulls, they can be upwards of $10, $12, $15 a pull on the cheap end.
Yeah.
And I think that can really add up. You got 20, 25 doors. You're not really thinking about $300 or $400 or $500 for these pulls, but it can come out to that. And the same goes for hardware. There's a lot of RTA options out there. Some are better than others. Heck, there's even custom cabinet manufacturers out there that I think use, or ones I've dealt with, let's put it that way, that use hardware as far as the hinges and drawer slides go that are just, they're not up to snuff to good quality. So I think that's a good place for people to invest and spend money.
Okay, let me ask you 2 quick questions. I'll put you on the spot. What's your opinion? What is the number 1 cabinet hardware, knobs and pulls brand?
So I would say that the brand I've gravitated towards the most is Richelieu.
Okay.
Um, because I have a warehouse here in Edmonton with tons of access,
I'm jealous of you.
which has really helped in the renovation style in terms of being able to pick items that are typically need to be ordered online and you might be
Yeah.
waiting for a while. Being a contractor here, I can put my order in and basically show up around
Right.
back of the warehouse and pick it up. So I have gravitated to Richelieu hardware for knobs and pulls.
Okay. All right.
That's
That-
not
I
to
would say the
say that
same.
they are the best.
Okay.
I think the key there, and like I've bought pulls off Amazon with great luck. So I will also say that I don't think money dictates quality and interaction in every case.
Right.
I think there are certain instances where yes, it will. And it really depends on what's important to you in the renovation. But I have bought pulls off Amazon for random projects around the house that I wanted something unique I couldn't find, and they've turned out fine.
Now, what about hardware as far as pulls? Or
So
not pulls, but like drawer rails.
Yeah, I'm a little biased again from the building side. Like I work a lot with like Craig jigs and stuff like that when I'm making my own door. And typically the Blum hardware all just interacts with it perfectly.
Okay.
And being that I have installed and worked with a ton of IKEA kitchens, they also use Blum hardware.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to beat. You know, Kitchencraft makes stuff around. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. All of them make versions of slow closed door or soft closed doors and soft closed drawers now. But I think when you just look at the engineering that Blum puts into a lot of their products in terms of like you go to IKEA and just grab a set of their drawer rails.
Yeah.
Their drawer slides, I mean, they're hefty. They weigh
feel quality.
You can feel quality in them versus something that is tinny or cheap feeling.
Yeah. Have you ever had the opportunity to try their age suit?
I know.
Yeah, they have this age suit that you put on and it goes on your head, and it sort of like hampers your vision. It mimics, like, unfortunately, just the process of aging with certain things in your hands, so that your kitchen is a little less accessible the older you get, unfortunately, for a lot of people. So what they're trying to do is build hardware that meets those needs. It's really interesting. You can have them come in and they'll do it at trade shows and whatnot, and they'll bring this age suit and you can try it on and like try to handle the different drawer pulls and try to move around your kitchen with this age suit on. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So Blum and Richelieu, I agree on both of those. Yeah, that's cool, because that was my number 2. Specifically it was pullouts, which coincides with what you're saying, because I think, and again, it's the stuff you can't see, but it's the stuff that makes your kitchen the most functional and the most usable for you, the end user. And having pullouts and having accessories that are accessible, I think, is the biggest place you should spend your money, especially like in a pantry. I have a lot of people, they put a pantry in, a standard cabinet pantry, and just have shelving, and they didn't want to spend the money on putting in pullouts, and be like, listen, this is where you need to spend the money. If anywhere, get this thing accessible and everywhere you can, especially in base cabinets. So
yeah, I have that under that same list of heading. It's cabinet organization, cabinet hardware, whether it's drawer pulls, internal organizers, all of it kind of fits in that same one. Because it's really easy to build a kitchen, say under $5,000 in terms of cabinetry, and just put doors on everything.
Yes. And
I can almost increase that price by 50% by switching everything to drawers.
Yeah.
It does add a substantial amount of money, but like you said, it is huge when it comes down the line in terms of using your space, especially in pantries. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a 24-inch pantry in your kitchen, to me, the bottom half, anything that's kind of below shoulder level in many cases, should be a drawer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that is a great place to spend money, because you are going to be using that kitchen. You won't regret it. You will regret getting on your knees and digging in the back of your pantry. So when it can be done, that's where the money should go. If you have the choice to spend it on this or that, that's a good place. So, but not in replacement of having it installed professionally.
No, I mean, I think number 1, as you'll see when I get there too. It's so that is basically your next item on the list.
That's my number 2 most important thing is making that thing accessible and easy to use.
So up next, I have another often overlooked item. It is something that anyone that has watched my channel for a long period of time will see that I harp and stress on quite a bit, and that is lighting.
Okay.
And this comes down to not only the fixtures themselves, but installation. And
Okay.
this is not installation of your kitchen. This is specifically your electrical installation. People are often shocked to find out that lighting or electrical work for their kitchen space will run into the thousands quite easily.
Hmm.
So when we're renovating old houses, or when I've renovated old houses, we're typically ripping out a standard single fan in a lot of cases, or a single light fixture in the middle of the room, and replacing them with disc lighting, getting under cabinet lighting put in. In some instances, we're putting in cabinet lighting for glass doors, or in some cases, we've done in drawer lighting. So that drawer is pulled out and a light pops up. All of this needs to be run and wired and done correctly. And it all needs to be done ahead of time. So I have lighting as my next, or my, I guess, third most important thing on the list. And that's simply because there's going to be a lot of it in your kitchen if it's done properly. You know, you've got task lighting and general lighting falling into pendants or under cabinet lighting, room lighting, and it will add up.
Yeah, that's not on my list, but I totally agree. I think what happens is you get to the end of your project, you use your kitchen, and you wish you had more lighting. I don't think you could put enough lighting in.
Well, and especially if you think about, like, so typically what we'll do in a lot of cases in renovations is we'll put the main lights on dimmers and then leave under cabinet lights just as is, or pendants as is. But I mean, if you really want that full suite of the ability to tailor your space, just throw everything on dimmers.
Yeah.
And this is like one thing I know IKEA does in cabinet lighting, does in drawer lighting, and does all this stuff. But the kind of downside to using IKEA products here, and this is something I talk with clients about a lot, is all of their stuff needs to run off drivers and be plugged in various ways. And it's kind of an awkward setup. You need to use their switching systems in a lot of stuff, not for everything, but for a lot of stuff. Whereas if you get your electrician to come in, typically they're going to have access to a supplier that probably has the lights for roughly the same cost. They'll be able to run everything in low voltage, hide it all in the walls. It's not something of an afterthought in some cases. You know, you don't have to worry about making junction boxes accessible, or hiding wires underneath cabinets, any of that. It's get them in, everything will run low voltage, everything will be switch plates on your wall, like a standard switch setup. And it tends to just look a little cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And that's something that should be done during installation. But what about like after the fact? What about people who, you know, their kitchen's in, but it's an after the fact? What do you think the best way to go about that
so
is?
that really depends on your space in a lot of cases. So like for example, in our kitchen, we have aftermarket LED under cabinet lighting. We didn't put it in because we don't really work on that side of the kitchen in terms of always wanting them on.
Right.
So what we have is we've got LED strips under there that are just touch to turn on.
Right.
So you just you touch it, they all turn on. We've had, I think, one set of changed batteries in 5 years now.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. And you don't see them. And they operate off remote. So like there is benefits like that too. I can make them blue or green if I really wanted. Like you can change the colors around. So that is one good way to go in terms of under cabinet lighting. I don't do a lot of in drawer lighting for my own work because I find that if you've bought proper drawer slides, bought proper hardware where those doors are full extension, it's not really a place that I would spend the money. It can add up quickly. Again, you have a set of light and drawers, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't often use my kitchen in the dark. So I typically have a light on somewhere. And even if it's, say, in the middle of the night, or I whatever the case is, the kid needs something, they wake up in the middle of the night and you're worried about something you got to go grab, I'll flick the oven light on, like the light in my range hood, or I'll flick just a single pendant on the kitchen. And it's dim enough that I'm not worried about blasting my eyes at 2 a.m. sort of thing. Yeah. But that's typically the best route, is some sort of click to operate, remote operated, or, you know, if you don't really have another option, I've run full wired under cabinet lighting in a U-shaped kitchen before, and you had one little cord draping down to a plug that was tucked kind of beside an end gable of a pantry, and you didn't see it at all anyways.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, I think lighting can be underlooked, I guess. and an afterthought sometimes. And oftentimes it's like too late, it seems, but there are solutions out there. I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
it is one of those. I mean, anything mechanically related, whether it's plumbing, gas,
Mm.
electrical, like that is stuff that really needs to be thought out early on.
Yeah.
I mean, even a simple discussion about, like, since we're on electrical, like outlet placement,
Yeah.
is something to just speak with your electrician at before you start installing cabinetry, because it's better to have it there in terms of actually doing it during the initial stages than wishing you had it in afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. Because worst case scenario, you don't have to turn it on.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but you're right. It does add up. So it's definitely a splurge purchase.
Lighting is very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that doesn't even count, like, when you get into, like, just the installation and the all the behind the scenes stuff, never mind buying fancy fixtures.
Right.
That'll run up its own bill too.
Yeah. Big time. I think those in drawer lights are pretty cool though.
For sure. I mean,
That's the ultimate splurge.
they serve their purpose in certain instances.
Yeah.
It's just in kitchens where you've got, say you've got 15 base cabinets, all of them with a base drawer. I mean, that's 15 sets of lights that now need to be wired in somehow.
Yeah.
And it's a place where once it fully extends anyways, you're probably not going to see the full benefits.
No,
but if you want to do it and you're not worried about it, I mean, go for it, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day, these are our own spaces. Do what you want, make it yours.
Yeah, and good point too on the full extension, because once you pull it out, your light's shining in the back of a box that's empty. So
Exactly.
yeah, full extension, definitely. Now, what about pot lights, and in particular, like the placement of where they should be? Like some people, okay, so some people are like, they got to be on a grid and they have to be spaced out. Now, in mine, it's spaced out evenly. In my kitchen, they're wherever I want them to be. So if you look at my kitchen, it's like your pot lights are everywhere. They don't make sense, but they make sense because they're where I want them.
Right.
Where in my living room here, they're, it looks like a landing pad for an airplane. So what's your thoughts on that?
So I have a general rule of thumb, and it is definitely not used by the majority of people. Let's go with that. So my pot lights, or my disc lights that are in my ceiling, what I would call my general lighting for my kitchen, I place them all about 25 inches off the wall in whatever shape my countertops are.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is twofold. That is generally where you're going to want light when you're working in a kitchen. You don't really need it in walkways per se. You want it over top of where you're working. Then your task lighting will aid and be the second source of light there.
Right.
And the reason I put them about 25 inches off the wall, wherever my countertops are, is because any further back, that light will now cast a shadow, or you will cast a shadow on your workspace. Even if you've got under cabinet lighting, you will still have that second light source casting a shadow. By putting them right at the edge of the countertops, you eliminate that while still typically lighting up enough of your walkway to not have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I start that as my basic placement. And then from that, we've lost Mark again. He should be back right away, hopefully. Yeah. There he is. And then from there, I will fill out the kitchen as needed. So I will say I am a bit of a stickler for things lining up. And I'm happy that my electricians that do all my work, thank you, Gordon Rose, I'll give them a bit of a shout out. They are also as picky as I am. So when I stand and look down my kitchen lights that are along the countertop edge, if I've got a dead straight countertop edge, I want to see dead straight lights above them as well.
Okay.
And the same goes for transition zones. So if my kitchen has a viewpoint, I'll use a kitchen that I installed a few years ago in one of my own houses. It had a hallway essentially that exited the kitchen down towards some bedrooms. And my second row of lighting, so not the lighting that was over top my countertops, but the second row of lighting lined up that they perfectly went all the way down that hallway.
Right. And
the reason for that is you would never notice it being lined up, but as soon as they are not lined up, it is something your eye becomes drawn to.
Yeah.
And the way my brain works, I don't want to call it pickiness or OCD or anything like that. I think it's just the way my brain perceives a space. It is drawn to differences or things that are out of alignment. And that's typically one that I see first is lighting.
Well, my kitchen will drive you nuts. If you ever in Nova Scotia, we have dinner, then you'll have to eat out in the patio.
No, maybe. Alrighty, what's up next? What do you have up next on your list? Let's keep moving along here.
This is, this can be many number of things, but countertops is my number 3. Countertops can cost a lot of money, for and they're absolutely necessary. So you're not going to have a kitchen that doesn't have countertop, where you could have a kitchen that you install yourself. You could have a kitchen that you don't put pullouts in. You could have a kitchen that you don't put lighting in. You can't have a kitchen without a countertop. And there's so many varieties and the price is so big, but spending money on good countertop, I think, is a good place to put your money. Because if this kitchen is something that is going to last, which obviously that's the whole point, you know, you don't want to change this in 5 years. You want to have a good quality countertop, but that's definitely a place where money can, you know, be spent. But if you want to have something that's a really good countertop, and that's a discussion for another time, what that is, you're gonna have to splurge on that.
So I'm going to put you on a spot now. You're renovating your kitchen. You've got one countertop choice. You're allowed to splurge on it. Money's no issue. What are you going with right now? With today's research, today's history, today's everything, what product are you choosing?
I'm so torn. I wish I had like a really good answer, because I don't have a really good answer right now. If this had been 6 months ago, I would have said quartz. But I've done so much research and, you know, really put my just head into the game of countertops. And I honestly don't know if I would say that. I think right now I would probably go with, I don't even want to say, but probably like a natural stone, like a granite, maybe. Man, I don't know. Why'd you have to ask me that question?
Because it's such a polarizing choice.
I want to say porcelain. Honestly, not because I did a porcelain video or anything. It's so great. Like Decton, even Decton, it's such a great product, but it's just a little too brittle for me. So I'm like, I don't know. I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Quartz is great, but there's some problems with that too. You know, generally speaking, granite seems to be the most durable. You know, maybe like a quartzite. You know what? I'm just going with laminate. Forget it.
Straight up laminate. Old
straight up laminate. That's what I have now. So why not keep going with it?
So I'll throw, since we're on the topic of countertops now,
oh, man, that's a tough one.
I'll also say that is my number 2 is countertops. I 100% agree. It's something you're going to need in your kitchen anyways.
Yeah.
Spend the money and choose something that you're really after. Now, I will say that with a bit of a caveat, because I've had many clients that have chosen, let me back up a little bit. Countertops aren't going to necessarily change the functionality in many ways of your kitchen. Yes, it might alter where you can set hot pots down, or it might alter odd things like that. But in terms of working space organization, countertops don't generally affect that. Mm-hmm. So what I have had clients do is spend their money on those other areas we discussed: interior drawers, lighting, and moving a sink, for example. Like that can be $1,000 bill, but it is really money well spent. And then they'll put something like butcher block counters. Now, in many parts of the world, butcher block counters are kind of cream of the crop. They're expensive and really sought after. Here, they tend to generally be one of the cheaper options, even cheaper in many cases than professionally done laminate.
Yeah.
Now, what I say, and the reason I say it's a bit of a caveat, is because they'll use those now for maybe 2, 3, 4 years. They'll pull them out, and then they can put the countertop materials in of their dream kitchen, their choice that they were looking for in option 1, but just didn't quite have the ability to stretch that budget to get them. And I think that's a great solution to kind of get the countertops you want, but you don't necessarily have to do it right away. It is one of those elements you generally can change down the line. Yeah,
a lot of people do that. Like you say, you get in the kitchen you want, you save up money again, and you know you can upgrade that countertop. What about you? What would you go with?
So since I put you on the spot, I will. I look at it from a twofold. I think material is important in one instance, but I also think accessibility and installers of that material, or the fabricators of that material, is almost more important than the material itself. So the reason I shy away from natural stones is because I have personally seen too many horror stories with them. Improperly chosen granite slabs, improperly chosen even quartzite slabs. If there is a vein or a crack that goes unnoticed, I've watched full islands be set down and just watched them crack right through the middle. And that can put projects into huge delays. Now, again, if you choose a proper slab and you have a fabricator that know what they're doing, natural stone's great. It's phenomenal. And on my list, I would pick quartz. I'll get into why in a second, or any stone countertop for that matter. I think stone gives you the wide options in terms of, whether it's heat resistance or scratch resistance
Yeah.
or just general low maintenance in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
with the exception of marble. I will never stick marble in a kitchen.
No.
There are, again, we can dive way into this because there are unique aspects of marble with finishing now and UV coatings and all
Yeah.
that. And you can kind of go down a rabbit hole on it.
Yeah.
But I would choose quartz because in my own renovation, so when I'm flipping houses and I'm listening to potential buyers or people that are in the market for houses, quartz is still synonymous with top of the line right now. That and
Sure.
granite, but more and more people are after quartz. I would say 9 out of 10 clients of mine when I'm designing houses or designing kitchens, it's quartz countertops.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would choose quartz. And the second reason I would choose quartz is because I've got a little company that does all my work here. Al, he's phenomenal. His ability to template, his ability to cut, his fabricators in terms of polishing edges and making sure everything is just perfectly clean. If seams are done, they're invisible. That is really important to me. And you can take a bad installer with a great product and wind up with a bad product. Whereas generally, any product you choose, like we said with kitchens at the beginning, with installation, any product, if it's installed by someone that knows what they're doing, it is going to look good.
Yeah. Yeah. In saying like what I'm saying, I've had basically laminate my whole life and it's never caused me an issue. So I can't imagine there be any stone surface that I'm going to purchase that's going to treat me, worse than laminate treated me.
Right.
So like in saying that, like the consumer has to be positive on these are the things I'm really looking for. Like if you're looking for, heat resistance to the extreme, well, you want to go with the ultra compact surface, a Dectin or porcelain, but run of the mill, really good stone, like quartz, that's very durable. That's not going to break, that can withstand just about anything. Because I think, what am I going to do in my kitchen that is so extreme that I'm going to be, smashing this thing and beating this thing? Now, of course, there's tons of people out there who comment on various videos saying, well, this stained my quartz or this happened. And that's always going to be the case.
Oh, 100%.
But my laminates treated me great over the years. So
yeah,
I don't know, that's a tough one.
I think what people often overlook when it comes to this is they view all granite as equal or all quartz as equal or all porcelain as equal. Not. I mean, I have seen porcelain countertops installed. It wasn't in one of my own clients. It was in, I know a guy here that was putting them in a building of his.
Yeah.
And every time you set a dish down, this is where my major drawback and like my main experience with it is every time you'd set a dish down, it sounded clangy and tingy.
Right.
Almost as if you were going to break it.
Yeah.
Like the feeling of setting a porcelain tile on another porcelain tile. And that sound to me, although it isn't going to break from doing it, it sounds like it's going to. And that relation to me, it was enough to kind of put me off of that specific stuff. Now, like I said, I mean, quartz is not equal. There is many different many different manufacturers out there. And there's a couple that I tend to recommend to people. And there's a couple that I tend to steer clear of because I hear a lot more bad press than good press about it.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. Especially the fabrication and installation part of that, because that is really bang on. You can mess up a countertop job by having it installed improperly or not measured correctly.
Oh yeah.
It really comes down to that. And those guys are pros, those guys who do it, guys and girls who do that for a living, who are really good at it. There's some really good fabricators out there. And when you find one, you hang on to them.
Yeah. I mean, Al has done every one of my projects for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he might not be the cheapest. And to be honest, after finding him, I've never even shopped around. I know I can trust him to come in, measure it. And that's, like you said, when you find, it's the same thing with my electricians. I had a different set of electricians. Gordon Rose have done everything for me now. They're good. I don't need to worry about it. And to me, I don't want to worry about the things I can't see or the things I have no control over.
Exactly.
I want to know they're done properly. And just like you said, custom or not custom cabinetry installation with installers that know what they're doing, it's an art.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for installing any stone countertop or any countertop for that matter, whether it's laminate, wood, anything.
Yeah. The difference between me installing a laminate and my installer is, night and day. It'd be
for sure.
Be tearing mine out in a week.
Alrighty, number 2, moving along.
So where am I at? So this would be, I don't know what number we're on, but I find this would be pretty important. Custom cabinets, all right, or customization of cabinets, but in particular, custom cabinets. And so what I mean by that is you have the option of, spending money on RTA, which can be good or not good. You can have option of semi-custom or custom. Like there's a lot of options out there, but having the ability to really customize your design with a cabinet line that's completely customizable to any size, any dimension, to anything at all. That there's a real benefit to it, and normally, I'll say normally, and I, it's kind of a blanket statement, but normally the quality is going to be a lot better with that. Not all the time, but a lot of the times, and the ones that I've dealt with in particular in my neck of the woods have been a really good quality. And you could send them a drawing, you could sketch it out by hand and be like, I kind of want this. Can you make that? And their engineers would go to work, figure it out, and be like, yep, no problem. So it was truly customizable, and that was a really great thing for clients, because with RTA cabinets, although you can do a lot with them, and I believe in pushing the envelope every which way you can, some things you just can't do.
100%, yeah.
Having that option, I think, and of course, you're going to pay for that. That's definitely a splurge. But if it comes down to, like, personally, if it was between quartz or spending that money on having a customized cabinet line, I think I'd go with a customized cabinet line first.
Interesting.
To get a real quality product, because that's going to be there for the long haul.
I'm going to just take a step back here, because I've been looking at my camera and not focusing. And thank you to everybody that's come out and commented so far. Good morning to all of you guys as well. I like Winston's comment here about you can't have too much kitchen light until you're getting sunburn. Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm just going to bring up a few here, Mark. We'll kind of chat about them as we go. I've ordered quartz for March install. And that's what I'm worried about. Timelines on a lot of trades right now, I know, are way out there.
Crazy.
It's quartz. So Winston says quartz looks bland, having a geology degree. I like the texture of natural stone. That's fair. I mean, that is something to absolutely consider. You can change textures with natural stone. You can have pebbled surfaces or leathered surfaces, although that is changing with quartz as well. There is leathered surfaces out there, and we're not going to dive into durability in that, because they all have their positives and negatives. That's an interesting comment from Rose about having a hand in her store and dropped it and it shattered. I'd be willing to place a bet that granite would probably do the same if you dropped it from, say, waist height or something like that on a concrete floor.
I'll do that. I'll test that for you.
There you go. I've never tested it. It might not. And quality has gone down so bad that our old cabinets look like bank vault. You know what? That's a really interesting comment, Rose. And something that is worth just a minute here discussing is that a lot of people like to say, oh, it's not made like the old days. I hear that a lot. Nothing's built like the old days, not built to last. And in some cases, it's true. Certain aspects of, like, we were talking about custom cabinetry, Mark. I know there's a few custom cabinet makers here that, yeah, it's all custom. It's measured to size. It's all still particle board doors. Or maybe you'd go up to the plywood level. That's a bit of a different topic. But if you're talking equal to RTA pricing, or, closer to that RTA pricing, they're typically particle board boxes with MDF or maybe wood doors. Interestingly enough, I won't say most, that's a bit of a generalization. Several of the high-end infillers that I have spoken to here don't install those cabinetry boxes anymore. They go with IKEA or another RTA line that they have access to that is the same particle board boxes, same door finishes, whether it's MDF or wood, simply for the fact that that buyer down the line has the option to go back and change stuff and replace a door or replace a cabinet a lot easier than if they were to have to hunt down the custom manufacturer, find the color of paint code, and get it redone. Mm-hmm. And that kind of ties back to quality has gone down. I mean, we have friends of ours that have a custom kitchen. It's been painted twice in 10 years, and it still looks covered in paint chips or covered in chips in places, nicks, and it really needs painting again. Now, arguably, I would think you're kind of at the point where why paint it again? Just put new cabinets in because it's clearly not working, or
Right.
whoever was painting it didn't really know what they're doing.
Mhm.
Um, but it is something worth considering, is like not all custom cabinets and all custom cabinet makers are created equal.
Yeah, and that's why I say like it's not necessarily going to give you a better product, but there are some out there that are very good, um, and I think that's you know I like it for the option of being able to truly like really customize the space,
Right.
a- and you get more options, with everything, with door heights and widths and styles and colors, and not all manufacturers just do like custom colors that they have to, remix again. Like they have most of these companies have a line of colors that they use and that are
Oh
are
yeah, yeah. I mean,
fairly standard.
a lot of them here in Canada are using, say, Benjamin Moore, for example, right?
Yeah. And so I think for that, like that's if you want that truly customized, and that's not downplaying IKEA or RTA or anything like that, because I think that's you can do a lot with those cabinets as well. But if you're gonna want to spend that little extra to get it really customized, that's one way you can go.
Yeah, and see, that's why,
Yeah.
like my number 5, for example, those custom pieces,
Yeah.
that's where I like, say, the base of my kitchen to be built from a very swappable, very easily maintained,
Right.
and a cost-effective manner with something like an RTA cabinet.
Yeah.
Again, whether it's IKEA or whatever brand you go with is kind of beside the point in some cases. And then fill in with those pieces, because there are certain instances like you're not going to go to IKEA and be like, well, I want a really unique range hood for this inset range hood I bought. It's like
Right.
that's not an option. You're
No.
either getting the silver stainless steel one that sits on the wall, or you're going to Home Depot and you're buying a Brone that sticks underneath your cabinet.
Right.
Whereas if you go to those custom manufacturers, or find even just a carpenter who is good at what they do, they can build something that then nests in that specific place, in that specific size, and you can build off from that point.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not as if any of these kitchen renovations are sort of cut and dry one direction or the other, right? Like there is the option to mix and match, and I think a lot of people forget about that. Is you can kind of
Yeah.
go both in the same space.
Yeah. That's kind of the beauty too of the IKEA line is, like you said, you can have this base that you can go and buy other pieces for to, customize it to a degree. And I think that's pretty valuable because most RTA lines, it's, cut and dry, and here it is.
Yeah,
So that would be that'd be the good thing about IKEA in particular is that aspect of it. But yeah, there's so many places you can spend your money. And my whole career was in custom cabinets. It was completely customizable. And I just really seen the benefit over the years of being able to give the client exactly what will fit the space
yeah,
without too many fillers or without trying to fandangle something to work.
right.
So yeah.
And I would say about 6 months ago, 90% of our design work, or maybe even 90, yeah, but 90%, 9 out of every 10 kitchens were IKEA based. And I would say now we are something like 60-40 IKEA to custom.
Mhm.
There's a lot more people going the custom route, and I think it largely has to do with more on the side of accessibility and the actual ability to buy stuff right now.
Yeah. I had
The
a comment on
whole
my channel earlier saying, is there any RTA company that I can get cabinets that doesn't take 18 weeks?
That's right. And
You know,
I think we're in one of those situations, but I mean, I talked to a
yeah.
cabinet builder here, and even they are like 3-4 months out, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're everybody, I've got doors going in a client's house that we finished the project in March,
Yeah.
and the doors are not going in till next March. And it's the way, not cabinet doors. This is a set of patio doors, but like
Oh,
that's
okay, okay.
just
But yeah,
how
that's right.
far behind stuff is.
Yeah.
And it's just something to consider, is like
Yeah.
we are in a time where stuff is going to take longer, but that's
Yeah.
where like incorporating elements from different locations, whether it's IKEA or Home Depot or Lowe's, and then pairing them with a carpenter, and find a local guy that's probably looking for business and looking to build out his company and is willing to tackle those unique and odd projects.
Yeah.
So Winston, I'm just threw up a comment here from Winston. I'm replacing laminate countertop. I remember when the laminate was installed when I was a kid. The chipboard under the plastic surface began breaking down the first time my mom ran the dishwasher. That is a good point. There should be some sort of protection placed, especially at the door of the dishwasher. So when you open it, and if you open it while it's hot and all that hot steam comes out, it will generally destroy that chip or particle board that's underneath the laminate countertop. That being said, there are options available today that do have a pseudo finished side underneath that are not just like straight open chipboard, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember the kitchen my parents had when I was a kid growing up. We had laminate countertops. Same thing. You looked underneath at the dishwasher when it was open, and other than a little strip at the front, you could see unfinished chipboard. So yeah, definitely something to consider. I'm just going to keep rolling through a few clients here again, Mark, or a few comments here. I'm mindful of my neighborhood, so when we redo our kitchen, it will be laminate. Anything that is a very good point, Karen. If you are not planning to stay in your home forever, if this is not I don't care what the renovation costs because I'm going to live here for 25 years, be cognizant of the market your house is going to sell into. There is no sense in spending $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 on countertops. If your market, they're going to walk in and be like, well, it's great, but I'm not paying any more than other countertops. Very, very good point. Karen made another, we want base cabinets that are 38 inches high. So that is another, like, you know, if you're looking at anything customized that is not standard off the shelf typical sizing, which is a 30-inch cabinet box with 4.5-inch feet, you're going to want to go the custom route because it is your best option. Now, with a caveat of if you make your own kicks, you can tailor the heights a little bit. As opposed to using the stock feet from some of these manufacturers. For example, like I don't use IKEA's feet for any of my own work. I build my own cabinet kicks.
Yeah.
So definitely something to consider.
Jeff, I think 38 inches, you could almost get away with a stock size, you know, because you're only talking like 2 inches.
But so take IKEA's feet, right, which are based at about a 4.5-inch. And then I think they go up and down an inch. Don't quote me on that, anybody. And if anybody knows, please leave a comment, whether it's now or down in the video. I would have to go back to see what their exact up and down ratio is because I haven't used their feet in so long.
But you could build, you know, you could take that box and you could build your own sub base, you know, that is that 2 inches higher. And then, you know, you're just going with a toe kick that's say 6 inches or 6.5.
That's what I mean by building your own base for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And not buying the stock feet that come with cabinets. Yeah.
Because I've done kitchens in the past with a high toe kick. It was for wheelchair accessibility, but it looks like fine. It looks perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And with a standard height cabinet, it would, you know, I don't think it would be out of place. So
yeah, I've done it in a kitchen where we wanted toe kick drawers in places. And it was all 5-inch toe kicks as opposed to 4.5, just to get a slightly deeper drawer in there.
Yeah.
So right now, 4 months from Home Depot in Southeastern United States, you know, it's
RTA.
Nothing's coming quickly. And yeah, that Steam's a killer. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So that was your number 2 custom cabinetry. That brings me to my last one. Number 1, it was what you led off with. It's installation. It is, it's one of those places where it seems like you're blowing the budget on labor, but it will make or break your kitchen. And it's, you know, I know people have the best of intentions when they are going to tackle a project themselves. And in many cases, it turns out great. And kudos to those that can do it for sure. Yeah. But be honest with yourself up front. And that's typically the conversation I'll have with people that are on the fence is be honest with yourself in terms of, are you going to regret the decision to save a few dollars and try and do it yourself? Or would you rather spend the money now and not look at your kitchen dissatisfied? Let's go with that as a word.
Yeah.
Or talk to your installer. I mean, they might say, well, hey, if you build all the boxes, if it's an RTA system, you know, or if you deal with the ordering and you deal with dealing with the manufacturer and all we need to do is come in and install them, you'll probably get cut breaks it. And most installers are willing to work with homeowners and work with their clients to find a ground where both they are happy to do the work and you are happy paying them to do the work.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you know, there's nothing like a good installer.
No, for anything, whether it's electrical, countertops, it doesn't matter.
They're worth it. They're worth more than what they charge you. I'm telling you. Yeah. And you know, I mean, you're one of them. I've seen what you do and you know, it's just, man, you can't beat it. That's a great place to spend money.
I mean, on the installer point, we did a basement renovation for a basement bar project. Well, it's a full basement rental. We put a basement bar in it. And I have videos back from February or somewhere around there on it. But I don't think I've ever given drywallers the credit they truly deserve until after that project. because I've always had mutters and tapers and drywallers come in and do like the odd little stuff, but they did an entire basement for me. And the difference, like, I know I'm not a good drywaller. I know it's not a forte of mine. I don't pretend I can make a product that is I'm happy enough with for my own stuff.
Yeah.
I would never ever do it for a client.
No.
It is one of those things where it's like the difference between a very, very good DIYer and a professional is night and day.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, installers, cut and dry, period. Doesn't matter who they are, pay for them.
Yeah. Good.
All right. Last one up for you.
Here's my last one. It's a bit of this is a different one, but this is this is a pure splurge, right? No other reason. It does have some accessibility bonuses, but it's a pure splurge. And it's the servo drives from Blum. All right. It's the electrically operated door and drawer opening systems that Blum has. And there's other companies, I'm sure, but Blum, I think, is number one. These things cost a ton of money, a ton of money. But if you're just looking, if you're like, hey, I've got this ton of money that I just want to spend on something in my kitchen and I don't know where, and I've got everything else I can imagine. If you don't have servo drives, then that's the place to put the money. So a servo drive is essentially just that. It's a touch operating, electrically operated, mechanically operated, all in one mechanism that opens your doors or drawers with the push of a button. It'll close them. Really, really cool, but definitely a spend for sure.
Yeah, I've used them in two renovations, and both times it was for garbage and recycling cabinets.
Yeah,
because that is typically a time where you have enough on your hands. Like, it's not water, it's not something easily wipeable. It's it could be anything. You're breaking down meat or whatever the case is. Having that ability to like push with your knee and have it fully open is a really nice feature. But like you said, spendy.
Oh yeah. Oh man, they're so expensive. But and of course, expense is relative, but we are talking about splurging, and that is definitely a place to splurge. And if you have never seen those, just type in Blum servo drives, and there's lots of little videos on those. Pretty cool.
The cool thing I like about Blum too is if you have any curiosity about their hardware and any part of their hardware, their YouTube videos are actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
because they'll break down into like the engineering side of how a lot of their stuff is built and how it functions. And they're not long; they're typically a couple minutes long to focus in on something.
Yeah.
So yeah, type in servo drive Blum into YouTube, and you'll get like a full breakdown from them on how they work and why they are worth what they're worth. Actually, let's go with that.
Oh yeah, ton of money, but that would be like the splurge of all splurges, I think. If it's down to just splurging, that's one of them.
So we got another comment from Winston here about, I've been buying appliances from online auction sites, planning to have all the new appliances on site before demo begins. So 2 points here. One, great money saving tip. You are more risk adverse, I think, than I am. I'm not sure I could buy my appliances from an online auction site. I'd be a little nervous on that front. Now, I mean, you might get exactly what you're after, and if you know what you're looking for and you know what to look for, I'm sure you can get some steal of a deal there. And then having everything on site before demo begins. Right now, I don't think you can make a better point about trying to acquire everything you need before you plan to rip out that kitchen. Mm-hmm. I have seen, this wasn't a client of mine, but I have seen a bit of a nightmare where someone ripped out their kitchen, had no plan for replacing it yet, but they were excited and they got into this new house. And now they're sitting with essentially 2 sawhorses, a plywood top, a microwave, and a toaster oven, and using the bathroom tub because they're waiting. And that's their kitchen. That's right.
That's a kitchen right there.
Just right now takes a little bit more planning, a little bit more consideration before, diving headfirst into these renos.
So, Jeff, I'm a little surprised you didn't put appliances on your list, because
I have a bonus, actually.
A bonus. Okay. I figured it had to be coming.
Number 6, I don't want to put it on the list because I think it's really, it's so personal. But I threw out a poll the other day. I think it was 4 items. What would you spend your money on? Range or a range or other appliance, countertops, faucet, and then other. And the overwhelming majority, I think it was like 90+%, I'd have to look at the exact numbers again, were countertop or range or other appliance. And I'm impartial. I think if you've got a wad of cash you want to spend somewhere, blow it on a range. It's one of the best things you could spend your money on in terms of like things you actually use in your kitchen.
Right.
You know, we use ours, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times a day because we've got our kettle sits on our gas range. So that's how we boil water for tea or coffee. And it's running a lot. And we got 3 kids that don't seem to stop eating. So
Yeah.
it's something
Weird.
that like, I don't think it necessarily makes it, it's not always better. It's just one of those intangible differences that after
Yeah.
you've worked with a lower end appliance and then you've had the chance to work with a high end appliance, you can tell the difference just in feel, in terms of joy, in terms of just enjoyment of working with it. And yeah, I'd blow the budget on a range if I had money to kill.
Let me like edge on a little bit then. So does it make you a better cook?
So okay, that depends on what your definition of cook is.
Just, it
So
tastes better.
I'll give a few examples. I have a client that has a very high end Gen Air induction range. She can so let's back up a little here. If you wanted to melt chocolate chips, or a typical person was melting chocolate chips, they'd boil up water in a pot, they'd put their chocolate chips in a stainless steel bowl and slowly heat them up in the bowl, not in the pot. She can take chocolate chips, dump them directly in a pot, stick them on her induction range at number 1, walk away for 8 hours, and come back, and they will still look like chocolate chips for the most part, but be nearly 100% melted as soon as you put a spoon or something in there. So yes, in terms of the finite adjustments, it can make you a better cook, but I don't know if better is the right word. It affords you a little more leeway. Let's go with that. And the same thing goes for gas ranges. There's a little bit more fine tunability when you get into the higher end versus the lower end.
I can't see a situation in my life where I'd be melting chocolate chips for 8 hours, but
no, but it's just one of those, it's a prime example. And it was kind of used, we went in with the intent of putting in a gas range into this project.
Yeah.
And we're talking to a chef because the one of the appliance stores here has chefs that are on site and they're constantly cooking food in display kitchens. And his first comment was, "Oh, you love scrubbing. You love to clean." And it kind of made me think, it's like,
oh yeah,
it's a good point. Like, we've got a high-end gas range, but like once every 8 weeks, we're pulling all the grates off, we're disassembling all the burners, and we are giving them a thorough clean.
Yeah.
And that'll typically take, we'll line it up when we do the same as our interior oven, but it can take an hour or 45 minutes to get everything totally clean. You have that high-end induction range, or even just an induction range in general. Lift your pot up and wipe off the glass surface, or wipe off that induction surface, right?
Yeah.
It's warm, but it's not like gas where I'm not touching those grates for 35 minutes or 30 minutes after working on them.
That's a good point. I have one bonus too. I'll throw you a bonus just because you threw one at me. This is just because I'm doing a whole series about sinks right now on my
noticed,
channel.
yeah.
I got 3 more videos to come on that topic. Workstation sinks.
Yeah.
They cost a lot of money.
They do. Especially the good ones.
The good ones with I mean like the really super wide with dual faucets. Man, they look so cool. I don't know how functional, I don't know how much of a cleaning problem it is, all the rails and all that stuff. I don't know, but they look sharp. And I would say that would be a pretty cool place. If in fact they are as good as they're supposed to be, man, they look good.
Yeah, sinks are such an interesting option because I noticed, I think you put up a poll that was like granite composite versus stainless steel.
Yeah.
And it was like 3-1 stainless steel.
Yeah.
I personally right now wouldn't put anything else in my kitchen. The only other things we've ever had in our kitchens before renovating was porcelain or an apron style sink. And they just, they looked terrible.
You mean you wouldn't put in stainless, or you wouldn't put in?
I would put in stainless. Yeah.
Okay,
terms of in resellability, in salability of your home, in terms of kind of what everyone's looking for, in terms of just general functionality, stainless steel still seems to be at the top. Now, I will say that with a caveat is there's more and more people that are after these like ultra square sinks. And if you are going that route, make sure that the corners have some sort of small radius.
Yeah.
You don't want like a 90-degree corner because you will never, ever get it clean.
Yeah. You'd be toothbrushing it.
That's right.
No fun.
So we got Winston left a comment on sinks here for you, Mark. Have a new hammered copper kitchen sink on the top stack of the bronze faucet. Melting chocolate chips. There's a video of chocolate chips melting on paper plate on a Thermador gas cooktop. On that's on a paper plate. I've never seen that. I'm gonna have to look that up after.
I just eat chocolate chips. I don't need to melt them for any reason, so I just can bypass that whole phase.
Yeah,
of
we
life.
don't do a lot of melting in our house either. But when that chef was like, "You seriously, you can do this," I'm like, "Well, now I have to try it." So I did it on my range, and I'm like, I don't really want to be scrubbing a pot endlessly. So I hung around, and even on the very, very lowest setting on mine, I think it was after about 45 minutes, I had to make sure I was moving that around before it was starting to like just get a little crispy on the bottom. Where seriously, that induction range, you poured them in, you walked away. And it was like that easy in terms of not burning it and in terms of like cleanability of your stuff after. But again, real world, who's going to do that?
Well, here's a real world splurge is put that induction top into a porcelain or other stone surface so that it's invisible. I bet that costs a lot of money. I've never priced it out, but that looks pretty cool.
Just having them embedded right in.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot, like I find in North America, since we're just on the discussion of this, like we tend to be behind the time.
Oh, big time.
In trends.
Yeah.
And in not even necessarily trends, but in like new age surfaces or in tech in the kitchen. We always seem to be like trying to catch up in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Who knows when that'll change? I think we generally are stuck in our ways in a lot of instances.
I think so. Yeah.
And not just kitchens, that it could be a while, but
because those induction tops inside of countertop, they've been around for a long time. They're not new, but it's not something we see, or at least I see in my area a lot of it all. But
and that's the same with like porcelain countertops. They're not necessarily a new feature by any means, right? They've been around in various forms. It's just not something we typically see a lot of here. Yeah. Anyways, Mark, I think we're starting to drag this out. We're at an hour again. I love our goal. We're like 30 minutes. Let's try and hit that 30-minute mark. Thank you everybody that came out and commented. We appreciate having you guys. If you have topics that you would love to see in more videos like these, leave them down below. We're slowly building out a list. I think we got 3 or 4 already on there that we'll definitely address. And you know what? If you guys really enjoy these, we'll start doing them a little more often too. I'm sure Mark and I can carve out a little bit of time for it.
Yeah, this is fun.
So on that, Mark, thanks a ton for joining me today.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
We'll schedule another one on your channel sometime soon. And thanks everybody for joining us. I'll leave a link down to Mark's channel down below. He's got lots of great content on there on kitchen design, whether it's, like he said, he's doing a whole series on sinks. So if you want to know about sinks, head over, subscribe if you haven't already, although I have a feeling most of you that have joined us this morning are pretty well in tune with both of our channels. So on that note, we'll officially end it. Mark, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.